Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Magic Mics. We are definitely happy to see you guys here. I'd like to introduce my two co-hosts. There's Ruben Bressler. There's
Hello.
Aaron Campbell. And we're going to kick off this week, as we always do, with the first pick. We're going to begin by discussing origin spoilers, and soon we'll be talking about some dead children, the best intentions that could actually hurt the game, bringing magic to the masses, and we finish with a little business time. Yeah. So let's kick it off here with talking about the origins of Magic. So Magic Origins is all about where these five planeswalkers came from, their origin stories, and for me, I don't really want to kind of recap what happened to various planeswalkers or what their stories actually were. What I like to do is kind of commend Wizards for the fact that I think that ever since really Cons has come out, that they've taken Forgotten Realms, they've taken the lore part of Magic, and they have just juiced it. They've really done a fantastic job at giving us the idea of like where these guys came from, getting real meaty stories that have some really cool twists in them, and really kind of speak to different people in different ways. And so, Ruben, can you tell me sort of like how you feel about these stories and how they've been writing them recently?
Sure. Yeah, I think that first of all, I want to say kudos to the story team, all the folks that are working on the stories. They've just been doing a lot of work building these worlds, especially for this set. You have the 5 starting worlds for the 5 planeswalkers, and then there are 5 different worlds that they accidentally planeswalk into for the first time. Mm-hmm. And some of them have been created already for past sets, like Ravnica, but some of them were brand new. Like Kaladesh. For Chandra, some of them are super. You have to build this entire backstory, and they had to do that. Usually, for one set, you have to only do that for one world. You only have to world build one at a time. This
Sure.
set, there's like 5 or 4 new worlds that we're sort of getting glimpses into. But just because you get a glimpse doesn't mean you can't. You can just sort of only build half the world. They have to build everything. And then you pick and choose the pieces they want to use for the story, just in case they go back to the worlds later. It's a ton of research. It's a ton of foundation groundwork to try to make all these stories hang together. And all of the stories that I've read, the origin stories for Chandra, for Jace, for Liliana, are the ones that I've read thus far. They feel. I mean, they don't feel like they could happen in our world, but they certainly. Mm-hmm. I don't have to suspend my disbelief a lot. I can't be like, yeah, obviously that would never happen in this universe. A lot of them, sometimes when you read a sci-fi story or a fantasy story, you're like, that's a bridge too far, right? But all of these, they make sense. All the characters hold together. They're reacting in ways that you think that they might, given a certain fantastic beast or demon that they come across.
Sure.
And I think that the stories have just been spectacular. I'm really enjoying all of the storyline elements. And for a spike, for someone who's usually only interested in winning, it's always refreshing every couple years when I'm just like, yeah, I'm really into the story this time.
And the real the real kicker for me was when they didn't, like, if you read Marrow's article, like they went halfway into design, with this being the villain set. And so, Aaron, how do you feel sort of how they kind of they turned around and was like, oh, this is going to be an origin set and everything's about origins, and the cards are really flavorful around the origins of each character. And how do you feel about sort of Enchanted Realms or I'm sorry, Forgotten Realms at this point?
I'm really happy about it. I have a number of friends who identify as Vorthos, and I feel like that's a segment of the community that really doesn't get. I feel like they've had to make their own fun for a while, where there hasn't really anything been aimed at them specifically. I think they've been able to take enjoyment from residual things that have happened in the community, but this really feels like something that's aimed for them. Like somebody said, okay, we have a lot of people who are very interested in where these people come from, what goes into these cards, we're going to throw them this bone. And I think it's great. And, I personally had more of an investment in Liliana, and I was very worried that they were going to screw up her story. And I also went into it thinking that I knew everything about her, where I was like, oh, well, she's just this vain creature who never wants to get old, and just want to be beautiful the rest of her life. And, reading that story, you really got to see why she is the way she is, and that she has sort of created this really screwed up life for herself, and that, in order to avoid having to take responsibility for any of it, she has to keep her life going. But in order to keep her life going, she has to keep doing all of these terrible things. And, I was really glad that they didn't fall into these classic tropes, of being the good girl and the bad girl. And I was really happy. It defied a lot of the stereotypes. It taught me things I didn't know about her, and I thought it was a win.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think overall, again, that they've really sort of given Vorthos things that they've never given them before, and that's been. I just think it's really added more depth to the game. And again, me as a Spike, like when I was playing Magic, it was all tournaments all the time. Drive to PTQs, go to big tournaments, do the best you can, whatever the Magic story is, whatever. Like, but what does the card do? Because that's all I really care about. Like now, I'm starting to really see the the real kind of meat in the story that I get a lot out of, and that the cards are also kind of help telling that tale.
Well, one thing I want to add too is that I think a lot of people have Vorthos qualities and they don't realize it. So like I had done an AMA a while ago, and somebody asked me if I was a Vorthos, and I remember kind of going, no, not really. I just I like to make sure that my lands are a certain type, and I like to make sure that they match, and just little things like that. And somebody was like, that's a Vorthos thing. And I was like, what do you mean? And, for example, now it's like I'm playing Legacy Dredge. I have a very specific type of zombie token that I like to use because, and I didn't even think about it, but I was like, well, you can't use an Innistrad zombie with a Ravnica Dredge mechanic. That doesn't work. And just little things that we don't think about. You see people on camera on streams, and they like their certain kind of islands, and they like a certain kind of Tron land. And I think that we all have a little bit of that quality in us. We just don't know it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, I'm the only cards that I collect these days are basic lands.
Yeah.
I collect APAC and Euro lands, and that's what I use in my decks. And, people are like, well, why don't you collect other cards? And I'm like, I don't know. This is just what I like.
Sure.
And obviously I'm not a heathen. I want all my lands to match. I'm not some sort of
It was like a whiteboarder in there.
Animal. What do you think I am? Like first turn, 8th edition whiteboarded mountain. Second turn, onslaught mountain that I found in the draft box. But anyway.
And they really blow their mind with an Arabian Nights mountain. Yeah.
I have to ask you real quick. If you ever do like a sealed event, are you the type of person that will stand at the land area and find the ones that match?
Yes.
Me too.
I do that.
I do too.
Assuming I didn't bring my awesome basic lands in my binder, because I bring that with me to sealed events. That's the other reason why I like collecting basic lands is I can play them in every tournament, every draft, every sealed. But moving back to this, I think that there is something to be said. Like we've all got a little bit of Spike, we've all got a little bit of Johnny, we've all got a little bit of Vorthos. We've got all of the pieces in us.
And Timmy.
And
Timmy.
And a little bit of Tim. A little bit. I mean, all of us have varying degrees of all of it.
Dude. Timmy all the time. Timmy forever.
And getting back to the storylines, the story that really stuck with me from a Magic set that I remember being like, this story is great. I love every aspect of what they're doing. I would read this novel. I would see this movie was Innistrad. And I just loved the sort of the Hell Vault storyline intermixed with Garrick being there, intermixed with this the politics of Micaius and his change and all of that kind of cool stuff. So Liliana was the character that I was most familiar with of the 5 Planeswalkers in terms of just knowing about her story. I knew that she made a deal with 4 different demons. I didn't really know why, but I knew that she did, and then she locked one of the demons in, or she needed to find the demons, and the first one she found was Gristlebrand, and yada, yada, yada. I didn't know what any of that meant. I just knew that there was this already developed character and that she was super powerful. And this story of her origin, involving her brother and accidentally killing him and trying to not ever see him again in the underworld, is like it not only goes along with all of the story that I already had for Liliana in my head, but it's also just super interesting and is a different movie that I would watch. You know what I mean? So it's like, people who love Buffy the Vampire Slayer and wanted to see more of Angel, and then Angel came along, right, and got his whole storyline. And you can keep doing that. You can, each different show has a secondary character that can get another secondary show, that can get another show on top of that. And the fact that Magic is able to do that every 3 months and keep it fresh and not just rehash the same kind of storylines. Like at first when Chandra first came out, people were like, oh, that's just Jaya Ballard. But no, Chandra has a very distinct she's grown up in a much more distinct way than Jaya did. And so I'm really impressed by the story team for putting together, every set. It's super interesting when I see all the story, but this set in particular with 5 different stories, trying to jam all that into one set is super
right,
cool.
Between that and all the flavorful cards and all the flavorful spells. So to get to some of those cards, to talk about a few of those, so Mutilate's back. It's called Languish. And it's close. It's not Mutilate, but it's close. And
we'll take it.
I mean, we'll take it. It's like they will not reprint Damnation. They just won't. I get it. Planar Chaos was a thing. I lived through Planar Chaos. I lived for when they unveiled Damnation on Daily MTG when it was the old site and everyone was flipping out because it was super cool and it was the first preview from the set. And oh my god, it was awesome.
I have the Damnation playmat that's made out of the weird carpet-like fabric. I do have that. I'm a big fan.
And all reports that I've seen of anyone like testing it has just been like, this card is awesome. Like, it's super good. You're playing it with all your 5 toughness guys, with your Tassigers and your Gurmag Anglers and stuff. And this is the part where I just want to note, like, I hope Wizards knew how good Gurmag Angler was. Like, I hope that wasn't a surprise. I can see it both ways. I can absolutely see both situations where they were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that's played in like Modern," and then being like, "Yeah," and like it just took a little while. Like we knew it was getting there.
Yeah,
I think Sam Stodd said though in the latest developments that they just don't test Modern. I don't know how true that is, but he basically said that we don't test Modern. We just don't.
And that's fine, but do they know how good it is in Standard?
I think that they have enough former professional Magic players on their staff to know that whenever they put a cost reduction ability on any card, they need to test the crap out of it. Gurmag Angler, I think, is a good example of this. You print a common and it takes over a older format. Right. Delver of Secrets is another one that is a common that took over older formats because the more stuff you put in, the more spells you put in your deck, the easier it is to flip Delver. So even though it was good in Standard, it's obviously better the older the format gets. Gurmag Angler is very similar. You fill up your graveyard with fetch lands and brainstorms and lots of things that end up in the graveyard anyway. Whereas in Standard, you have a lot more creatures. And a lot less wastelands and things like that. So I think that they figured out that the Gurmag Angler was going to be a thing. Moving back to this card, however, instead of playing this in a deck that has Siege Rhino, instead of a deck that has Tassiger, instead of a deck that has Gurmag Angler, these 5 toughness guys, or Dragon Lord Silumgar, I think that Dragon Lord Silumgar is the one that Languish is going to be the best friends with. I think that Blue-Black Control is the deck that needed this the most.
Yes.
I think that as soon as Theros leaves, those Dragon Lords are going to rule Standard.
Oh, absolutely.
All of them. Like,
well, they're lords.
They're amazing.
They're lords of dragons.
Like, they're good, and a lot of them are played now, obviously. But I mean, like, they're just going to get even more played, and that's a big thing. But so speaking of older formats, they're trying to. I really get a kick out of how they're trying to kind of bring back older spells or really powerful things that they've done in the past. And as a result, you see Relic Seeker, which is like, it's the fixed Stoneforge Mystic.
Right.
Because if you can only get it one trigger, and if you can only get it to your hand and not actually put it in play with it, then all of a sudden it's fixed. And obviously with no real powerful equipment right now in Standard, it's just like, well, that's neat. But that's exactly what happened with Stoneforge. Is there was Basilisk Collar, and there was Behemoth Sledge, and nothing. And then here comes Scars of Mirrodin, and it's like, oh my god! And then everything changed.
Famine and Batterskull came around, and it was guilty by association. I definitely agree with that.
Exactly.
They're doing a lot of that. There's a lot of cards in this set that are, that's the joke, is that this is the Strictly Worse expansion, right? Like you've got Clash of Wills instead of Syncopate.
Right.
Another good example of this is
Hierarch?
Days Undoing.
Days Undoing.
The Hierarch.
The Hierarch.
Days Undoing and the Hierarch are both fixed-ish. There's like an opalescence that costs 1 more and requires you to have 1,000,000 enchantments in play. There's a bunch of cards like that in this set. And first of all, that's fine. Like, you shouldn't be just reprinting every super powerful old card and hope that it doesn't get broken this time around. That's what happened with Dragonstorm. Like, the first time they printed Dragonstorm in Scourge, it didn't do anything.
Right.
Then they reprinted it in Time Spiral as a time shifted card, and it took over. So they don't want cards to sneak up on them like that.
But they also sort of, I mean, like, Standard can be powered down and still be fun. And so when people are just like, but it's not Noble Hierarch, but it's not Time Twister, it's like, I get it, but that doesn't mean the card's necessarily terrible. It just means it's different. It's a different power level. It will be different in the environment, and it doesn't need to be as good as Birds of Paradise. It doesn't need to be as good as Noble Hierarch to still be important and still be played. And they revealed today that Honored Hierarch, and I like to throw back to the name personally, is part of the Clash Pack. Is going to be a free intro pack rare, or a Clash Pack rare that is, I think it's those are foil, but I'm not 100% in that. Either way, it's going to be a Clash Pack card, so you don't have to pay infinite for the single per se, and it just makes it more widely available. Because to me, I feel that's a highly playable card. Yes, it is Steward of Valeron or whatever. Like, on a good day, and you want to hit it on turn 1, or it could just not do anything. And I understand that, but like ultimately, it feels like they're going to get rid of Lanamore Elves, and this is pretty much what you're going to have.
I just can't help but feel like, how we felt when the Temples came out. And it was, these cards are rubbish. No one's going to use these. These aren't the Ravnica lands. These aren't the... And now we're riding them like the Runs through tomorrow. I mean, I think it's fantastic. And we're going to be here. I can see all these cards that people are bad-mouthing being possibly relevant in Standard, and maybe people changing their tune. And
sure. And I mean, I think Starfield of Nyx is absolutely brilliant. I think it's sweet. Like, that to me is the perfect card that they do. Like, Wizards love to do this, and they can't really do this anymore because they're getting rid of the core set. But what Wizards really enjoys doing is just putting the pedal to the floor. Just being like, here's the card that is going to make your deck completely insane. Green white. Yeah, Green White Devotion is just like, oh my god, this is we're home, baby, because this card is ridiculous and it's going to be awesome. And so, like, but you only get it for this like 3-month period, and then Theros goes away. So even if it's annoying and everyone has to play, was it Back to Nature or whatever?
Back to Nature.
Yeah, so to get rid of all the enchantments, sure, Shatterstorm should be in a world where Affinity exists.
Right. They do that. They do that a lot. Like, you were allowed to play Infect with Rancor for 3 months.
Right.
Before Rancor cycled out. They do stuff like that for 3 months, just in case it's too broken.
Exactly.
Right? Like, they put Arbor Elf and Llanowar Elf in Standard for 3 months, and then the Craterhoof Behemoth deck was Genesis Wave deck was a thing for 5 minutes, and then then that cycled away too. They tend to do this. I usually, when I'm looking through core sets, I look for the repeats, the cards that are gonna be able to give you 8 of one effect. There aren't a ton of them in this set. I haven't noticed, but I'm sure that once we start getting closer to the expansion being released, we'll get some more of those. But I'm just super impressed by a lot of the cards. Even the commons are like different enough from cards that exist already that I think that they are super interesting in that you have a 2/3 for 2 in black that enters the battlefield tapped. Black never gets that. That is not a thing that black gets. A 3 toughness creature for 2 mana. So there's a lot of cards in this set that feel pushed in the right directions.
Can we talk about that Undead Servant though?
Yes, let's talk about it, because that card is like, it's just like Aaron Campbell card. It's what that needed to happen in her life, because this card is all about green black. It is all about getting things to make them die, bringing them back with a whip, like getting that value long term. This to me was the one of the cycle that they spoiled of like the card that cares about other copies of it. This was the one where I was like, man, that could get there. That could get there in Standard. Like, if you just have one copy in your graveyard and you play another one, you get a 3/2 and a 2/2 for 4 mana. If you whip it back, there's still going to be one in your graveyard, so you still get another, you know what I mean? And if there's multiples in there, it just gets absolutely absurd. It's right there.
It's a 4-man Sidisi. If you want more Sidisis,
it's right there.
The problem with Undead Servant...
Who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't want more Sidisis? The problem with Undead Servant is that it's a 4 of. Right?
Yeah.
You can't have it be a 3 of. You can't have it be a 2 of. Certainly can't have it be a 1 of. So you need 4 of them in your deck, which is fine, but it's also a building constraint. I think that, I'm less high on Undead Servant being a thing because it costs 4 mana, and I can think of a card that I would rather play for 4 mana.
There's all sorts of wonderful cards. But Aaron, tell me how you feel about it at this point.
Oh man, I love this. I think for the reasons Ruben said, it's like especially having, we have that 3 more months where Whip of Erebos is legal. So you throw this in a Sidisi deck, and you're able to whip it back, enter the battlefield trigger. You've probably already been milling yourself stupid between Sidisi effects, Satyr Wayfinder, if you play Commune with the Gods and things like that. So you're guaranteed to get some value out of it, and even if it only goes once, so you whip it back. You have the 3/2 with lifelink. It enters the battlefield. You get a zombie for that one in the graveyard. That leaves. I mean, there's just nothing bad about this in a Sidisi deck where it's like, ugh.
I mean, with Liliana, and things are the new Liliana,
Yeah.
heretical healer, heretical. Thanks.
Easy for you to say.
Don't get lost in the minute.
I saw what you did there. But that card, the coolest thing that I've heard about the new Liliana that I read today from Jerry Thompson was when you play her, and she's the only card that is on the battlefield. It's like the only creature you got. You whip back another copy of her, and then you legend roll her to death and kill her. And when she flips, and you +2, and you discard an Undead Servant to her +2, just saying, you don't have to pay 4 mana for these things.
Okay.
They start to work together.
All right, I'm kind of on board, I think.
Again,
I can taste it.
It's right there. It's right there. All right, so with our next spoiler, we're going to go into our next segment of Gather the Townsfolk. And that is a bit of I don't know about controversy, but certainly a lot of talk has been made of the card Blessed Spirits. Now, I'll bring up the artwork on the screen now. And as you can tell, it's an absolutely amazing picture by Anna Steinbauer. She did a fantastic job. We're talking about dead children here. And
yeah,
that's the thing. I'm going to go back to us now.
And it's a sticky issue.
It's a sticky one. Now, ultimately, the card is a white and 2 colorless flyer, 2/2, that whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it, with some of the most brutal flavor text I've ever read in my life, which is "Not all heroes die in armor." And I'm just like, am I supposed to feel like proud because they're still there and they're still fighting?
Right.
But someone killed children.
Yeah. If you're narrating your game of Magic and your opponent's like, "Heroes downfall your blessed spirits," and you're like, "Not all heroes die in armor," and then your opponent just cries. Like, you just win because your opponent can't see the battlefield anymore because their eyes are so full of tears.
It's so overwhelming. Aaron, how do you feel about it?
I actually wasn't bothered by it. I thought it was cute. I thought the art was really well done. I think they're adorable kids. I think for me personally and how I react to things, I would probably be more disturbed if it was more lifelike. Like if it was more trying to think of if it was like a zombified child or something where it wasn't so I find the fact that it's cute very disarming to me.
They do look a little bit like Pixar kids,
right? And that's why it was so much more easy to digest for me, because I really didn't see the it just didn't hit me the same way as if maybe there was flesh charred from the skin, or maybe just something more I'm just saying that would have hit me a lot harder.
Like jaw half hanging off, you know what I mean? Just whatever.
But it's we've seen that. Yeah, that. So this I thought was really, I liked it. Dare I say I liked it. I thought it was really well done, and I loved the art. Yeah,
I love the art too. It's great.
They did a classy job, and again, I think the art itself, in terms of quality, is terrific. It's the, I don't want to really eschew it and say Wizards, please don't do this in the future. You know what I mean? I want to say you guys went out on a limb. It's different. No one's ever seen anything like this. You've never done anything like this in Magic history, and I think that's great. Keep pushing the boundaries. Again, and it's very important. I also, as you noted, that they're not disfigured. There's nothing wrong with them. There's not a spear sticking out of them or a hole in them or something. It's just it's a beautiful image, and ultimately I feel like it's meant to be that everything is still okay with them, even though they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what I've sort of have come to in terms of the way that I feel about it, even as a dad of 5. That's a thing.
It's a super tough it's a super tough issue to deal with in any capacity for any company of any kind. If you want to, have part of your story, or have part of the story that you're trying to tell include the untimely death of young people. It's just something that, first of all, happens in real life. But most people play Magic or go to the movies or watch TV in order to escape real life. And so when you put something like this in your game that people are trying to do for fun, you don't want to necessarily have easy triggers like this. That's not the trigger of Blessed Spirits when you put a +1/+1 counter on it, but you know what I'm talking about. But it's the kind of thing that it's tough to deal with, and I think that there just isn't a better way to do it if they're going to print the card. They did it very tastefully. The card looks beautiful. The flavor text obviously matches the art and the name perfectly, and so if this is a thing that they decided they were going to do, they couldn't have done it any better.
I have to say I've been, and maybe this is the wrong word. I don't want to say I'm enjoying seeing the reaction because I don't want people to feel bad, but I've certainly gotten emotional about issues in this community, as we all know, and it's been, that hasn't necessarily been shared with a lot of the community, because they can't really relate or whatever. And I've enjoyed seeing this hashtag of MTG Dads sort of take off, and seeing these guys who wouldn't normally, think twice about art, who wouldn't normally care about a social issue. I'm kind of enjoying, and again, that's probably a terrible word, but I'm kind of enjoying seeing them care about this and get, maybe a little emotional about this. People who wouldn't normally care are very passionate about this, and they're being respectful about their opinion, but they're like, this is something that's hitting me. This is something I can get involved in, and I'm enjoying that.
I certainly like the idea that things are impacting. It's not just another piece of art. It's not just another 2/2 flyer. Like, there's so much beneath it and so much behind it. There's a lot to kind of sort of take in and think about, and that kind of also leads into what some could call a shift in art style. So, Ruben, tell me sort of how you feel about, there's some very abstract style going on, I think, with Blazing Hellhound. That's really, really unique looking card. And then I think there's some that almost look kind of like video game CG trailer shots. They paused the video game CG trailer, took a picture, put it on the card, and then here we are. How do you feel about that?
I think that, first of all, I am a big fan of Wizards going out on a limb and trying new things. Whenever they, as we talked about, I think we talked about it on air last week, having a Planeswalker that is androgynous or a Planeswalker that is asexual in Ashiok. That's going out on a limb in some other capacity. In this, it's much more overt in what they're trying to do with Magic Origins, which is you've got all these different worlds. Not everything looks the same on every world. And so they've brought in some cards like Blessed Spirits, which is a card that you're not going to confuse for any other card. There's nothing that looks like that.
Right.
Blazing Hellhound looks like they got Richard Kane Ferguson's portfolio and started remaking stuff that are much more impressionist and much more abstract. Wide swaths of color, like back in the mid '90s, they did a lot more stuff like this. I personally love it. I love this Blazing Hellhound art. Not everything needs to look the same. There are certainly a bunch of cards that look like they were screenshots from a video game. I think that Ravaging Blaze, as we talked about Ravaging Blaze last week, is a card that looks like it's a video game screenshot. The Mizium Meddler promo looks like a video game screenshot. And there's a lot of those. But they're also experimenting with, another cool abstract card that I really like in this set is the new art for Disperse. Doesn't look like anything that's been printed in the last 5, maybe 10 years. It's super unique, and I love that they're giving their artists more room to grow and experiment and give them different kinds of fantasy feels. Not everything has to look exactly the same. And I think that's a really cool step that Wizards has they've sort of freed up their artists a little bit, I think.
Aaron, how do you feel about it?
I kind of agree. I think that I think it might not be accidental that some of these cards look like there's something out of a trailer, because the Magic movie is coming out soon, or soon by movie standards. And, I can see that being sort of intentional, where it's like, we are capable of creating these landscapes, and this is what our movie could look like. Like, I think it might be like a teaser of that, or like, what I mean? Like some sort of...
I don't expect the Magic movie to be CG, all CG. I expect it to be very kind of like... sort of the Harry Potters of the world, basically. And if you saw the new trailer for the Pan movie, which I think actually looks freaking great.
Yeah.
And it's super high fantasy, really crazy mythological creature stuff, people flying pirate ships and clouds and stuff, but it's all really cool and it all feels very grounded. And that's what I'm hoping personally for the Magic movie is something that's it has a more serious tone, and there's all these really cool spells happening, all these creatures that you see on cards are coming to life, and they're, it's mixed in CG with real people. And so, if we get different video games, I would love to see this type of stuff happen and more trailers, or just more trailers in general for Magic sets. All those trailers for Magic sets are fantastic.
Yeah, there is some art that's kind of baffling though. Like, I mean, I've been pretty impressed with, no surprise, I like a lot of the black cards.
Really?
Like, for example, I just noticed with the Dark Petition, if I'm understanding this correctly, Liliana has her zombies holding her up to Grizzlebrand's level. If I'm seeing that correctly,
Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant. Like that I had to look at it that closely, and that they would do that. I thought that was really spectacular. There was one piece of art in particular that I was not plussed by, and it's the Alhammaret High Arbiter.
Oh,
Is that
the
real?
Sphinx?
Like that's
that's Jace's in the storyline. That's Jace's private tutor after he got kicked out of school.
The face just looks so different from the Sphinx, though. Where like it almost looks like somebody. Like when I first saw this, I thought it was fake. I thought somebody had just glued a face onto it because it just didn't seem like it blended in with the rest of the art. Like, am I the only one who sees that? Like,
no, it is just like a dude.
Well, it's like a
lion body.
It's a dude's head.
Get that.
Because if you look at Shroom and you look at Diabetes Sphinx, it just seemed it went with it, and this just it's so jarring where it's
just like, Sphinx and the feet and the wings and then like dude's head, it's like dad head. I mean, like it's just like a dude with like
dad head
with a beard. You like that? And
yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so
he does look like the bad guy from the first or the second Superman movie, like just the face.
Oh, like Zod?
Yeah, Zod. There we go, Zod. A
Nice.
little bit. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. But the other thing is that Sphinxes are supposed to be sort of perplexing looking, I guess. I don't know. So maybe they sort of just, again, they're just letting the artist be like, yeah, I just want to make it a super, super realistic human face and put it on this fantasy body and see people freak out, right? So maybe that was a conscious decision.
See things happen.
I'm so glad they're bringing one of my favorite uncommons back. They're bringing Meteorite back. Meteorite kills me in the best way. Like this.
Whose story is the Meteorite in? Because everything in this set has some sort of flavor reason to be in the set, right? I want to know whose origin story do they like use a meteorite
Just
for?
drop a rock.
Yeah, from the sky.
Just
like
splat.
I'm interested in that. I'm sure we'll figure it out. It is pretty awesome.
Well, it's like, who has the giant book for the Jam Day tome, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Is Jace turning the pages? No, that's old art. Come on now. It's fine. I mean, to me, that's just kind of a reprint for reprint's sake and blah, 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 limited such and such. Last one I'll note, here is Managorger Hydra, which, like, Tori and Mahler did see, like, 12 seconds of standard play, and then people were like, this is terrible. And I tried to make it work in Cube, and it was like, oh, this card's bad. But Managorger Hydra triggers on any player casting spell. It is a 2-mana, it is a green and 2 colorless 1/1 green creature with trample. And anytime a player casts a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever you do anything, whenever they do anything, like that's a really powerful trigger. And I don't know, man. I think that one's got potential.
Yeah, I agree.
Doesn't cast also mean that it doesn't necessarily have to resolve?
That's correct.
Yes.
So like you could just have your stuff countered, or you could just
And that's fine with me.
You can play your Managorger Hydra and keep up Force of Will if we're trying to play a 1/1 for 3 in Legacy. Yeah, I mean they keep trying to make cards like this happen, and I'm not sure that they are going to happen, but this is certainly a valiant effort at trying to make the Storm Entity / Tauren Mauler /
Quirion Dryad or
Quirion Dryad kind of card get better and better as time goes on.
Used to actually be a thing.
Oh yeah.
It's 2 mana. That's important.
That was back in the old days when there were like 7 total Magic cards. Exactly. So like, you were kind of hurting on 2-drops. You're not hurting on 2-drops anymore.
Like Etched in Stone, you can just like shuffling was so hard.
Yeah,
it was real tough. back then. All right, so we're going to move on here, and we're going to go to our Pass the Salt segment. And Pass the Salt is where we get a little salty, and we talk about some stuff. And today I want to talk about what I feel is very, very bad for Magic, and people just have the best intentions ever with it, and they just don't understand what harm they could do with their best intention stuff. So what happened was there's a really cool website. I believe it's MTG Goldfish. Yes. Mm-hmm. And they do a lot of data analysis, and I love it. Seriously, let me preface all of this with I loved their work. I think it's brilliant. I devour that. I really enjoy how they get into like as much statistical analysis as possible. So what they did was they used tools that many Magic Online bots use, and instead they analyzed games of Standard. And so they analyzed what they had noted was like 85,000 games of Standard. So there's all sorts of factors around it. How good are the players? Did they sideboard correctly? Did they know what they were doing? Did blah 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 blah. But like at the end of the day, sort of in the whole of 85,000 games, they got a pretty good look at Standard, specific statistics on win percentages when they mulled, average turns that the Standard format has, and all that cool stuff. And I love it. The problem is that if you try to do that, and we as nerds and people who like to figure things out, Magic is part explorations, part of experimenting. It's so between those two things, and then you have the skill and you have the luck. So if you just take half of that away and you say there's no exploration and there's no experimentation because we have looked at all these big archetypes, the best archetypes in Standard, we have statistically told you which one is going to win the most. The half of those four things is gone, and so then it just becomes skill and luck. And to a lot of people, that just takes so much fun out of Magic. And Magic, when someone has a column that says the best deck of the week or whatever, the best deck of the day, whatever they want to say it is, it's an opinion based on their outlook, how they play, what they think about. And Standard has really transformed into a kind of rotating cycle of this is good, but now this is good, but now they're playing this, and now they're playing that. When they boil it down, it becomes a real negative for the game, I feel. And as a result, what I would love to see is I want to see this article. Trust me, I want them to publish this article. I want to publish this article on the last day of Standard before Magic Origins comes out. Show me what happened. Show me exactly what we just lived through. Give me everything that we have that showed us, like at this point in time, this was what Standard was, and this was how good everything was, and this was the best thing that you could be doing. These were the best win percentages that you could have. And then we move on and we say, okay, Magic Origins releases tomorrow, and everything's going to be different. And now the exploration and the experimentation are back, and you can figure out like this was our existing Standard. This was what was good. Let's play all the new stuff. What is going to beat those old decks that were dominating so hard? So that's basically my argument for, while I appreciate the good intentions and I understand the good intentions, I just don't feel like it's something that should have been done this early, because people are just desperate to do this. They so want it. They feel like if I could just mathematically boil down every event, every Grand Prix, every Open Series, if I could just boil it down to what was the best thing you could be doing, then Magic is so much better, because then I know. But the opposite, I feel, is totally true. You take all the people who were like, they got this crazy deck idea, they've got this weird sideboard thing going on, they've got this rare that no one else uses, blah blah. They go, well, that's useless, because you've already told me this is the best thing I can be doing, and if I'm not doing this, then I'm not really participating anymore. I'm just getting ran over by the percentages. Ruben, how do you feel about it?
I think you're wrong, and here's why.
Okay.
Is how I'm going to preface this.
Ooh.
Basically, I think that you just pass the salt to me, and then I'll tell you why I'm salty at Evan for being upset about this. So, here's the thing. First of all, the article is written by Saffron Olive, who's on the MTG Reddit all the time, and is, for my money, one of the best writers in Magic right now, and no one reads his articles because he's on MTG Goldfish. But this article is just great. It's really well put together. Mm-hmm. And he did a lot of footwork to get all this together. Mm-hmm. 85,000 games, which he says in his article is about how many games you would have if you watched every game of a 2,300 person GP in which no one dropped.
Did he say if he did this like by himself? Like,
he analyzed the data by himself, yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so this was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I see your point. I see why you're like, but if you analyze all the data, then it's solved and no one gets to have fun anymore. The problem is twofold. One, this is not all the data, right? There are games that he did not analyze. There are he did the online metagame, which is different than the live metagame. He probably only did it from this point in the month to another point in the month, and metagames shift online daily, let alone the weekly metagame shifts at GPs. And so saying that this is all of the data, and because he's used 100% of the data, it's now all out there, is like, just because... I don't even know how to word this, but just because Mount Himalaya, the Himalayas are the highest mountains on Earth, doesn't mean they're the highest mountains in the solar system. They're just the highest ones we know of that we've climbed, right?
Sure.
There's other data that we aren't aware of. There could be different decks, right? We don't know, and that's the other thing, is that this is only analyzing decks that are commonly played, right? He's analyzing the top 10, 15 decks in the format. It's possible that there is a perfect... It's not just possible. There is a perfect 60 card, 15 card, 75 to play on any given day. But there's no way ever to know what that deck is. This is just a really good estimation of that. I think that when you're asking people to withhold their enthusiasm for information, there's a fine line between... there's a fine line, of course, between using as much information as you can and using all of the information available. And I think that being upset over this, as opposed to being upset over like an Owen Turtenwald article when he says, this is the best deck and here's why, he has a lot of games under his belt, he's one of the best players in the world, but it's still an opinion piece. In this case, he's using the hard data, which to some minds, including mine, I think might even be more relevant than an opinion from one of the best players in the world. And I want that information. I don't want that information on the last day of Standard when I can't use it. You can read this article and you can be like, well, this is his breakdown of these 85,000 games or whatever, and then you can use that information how you see fit. You don't have to play the deck that he says is the best. You can then change your deck to be slightly better against that supposed metagame. Like, there's not just one way to use the information from this article. So I think that saying that this article is leading to that this article and articles like it lead to boring or stagnant metagames, I just find a fault with that logic in general.
I just go ahead. Aaron, do you have any opinions on this?
I agree with Ruben. I'm the type of person who, and I'll admit that this is one of my shortcomings, I am the person who a lot of times buys into the white noise, as I like to call it. So Owen will tell me this is the best deck in the room, Jerry T tells me this is the best deck in the room, and I eat that crap up. And I'm like, oh, but Owen told me to do this. And the problem with that is you have to understand that there's your local meta, there's the national meta, there's the online meta. I've been that girl who goes to a tournament saying, Owen told me I'm going to face this today, and then I never face it. And then I'm the one who, bought into all that stuff. And so I've learned to not completely disregard, what a metagame is and things like that, but just to sort of, keep an open mind, and, it may not go that way. So I think as somebody who consumes this type of information and likes to read it, it is sort of misleading. And it doesn't affect me any. Like, I've fallen for that trap too many times. If this is the best deck in the room, this is what you need to watch out for, and then it's never happened because people are ultimately going to play what they want to play.
It's a little bit more damaging, I feel, in metagames that are stagnant by default. When we're in a mono blue versus mono black world, when you run 85,000 games through that metagame and you're just like, obviously better win percentages with these two decks than any other deck. When it's Primeval Titan and Delver, and it's like, these are your two decks and they're better than everything else, and we have mathematically shown you through various analytics of all these tournaments or all these games or whatever data sets we can use, they're just the best. And you go, like, no matter what I do, they're going to be better than me. No matter what I'm building, this is a better 60, this is a better 75 than what I can be working on. I feel like that takes a lot of wind out of people's sails, and they say like, well, I should just be playing Obzon. It's like, why am I trying? Just like, let's just buy some siege rhinos and just make it happen.
I think that another thing is that I think that everyone who reads this article isn't going to take it as gospel, and also a lot of people just aren't going to read any given article. Like the most popular Magic article of the year is probably still not read by most people that play in tournaments.
Yeah.
And so just because this information is out there doesn't mean that everyone is going to use it. Or even be aware that it exists. I bet people don't even know that MTG Goldfish is a website. And so, it's the fact that there is this information out there. The players that are looking for this information and want to use it for their own personal gain to be better at Magic or have a better chance of winning a tournament will find it and use it how they so choose. The fact that this is as opposed to being a mostly opinion piece, which most Magic articles are. Most Magic articles are, here's the deck, here's why you should be playing it, here's how you should mulligan. These are all of my opinions. I'm a very smart person who has lots of Magic results, therefore you should listen to me. That's most articles. This article is not that. This article is, here is what the numbers say you should be playing, and here's the numbers on the matchups, and et cetera, which is a very different
Here's what
baseline
happens
argument
when you boil Magic down to like just nuts and bolts numbers, just nuts and bolts statistics, and that to me just takes a lot of
left. It becomes it becomes robotic,
right?
And I recognize that's the main crux of your argument is you don't want Magic to be a simple math problem,
right? I don't want it to be an equation,
a living, breathing thing, which is fine.
And they've gotten better at making sure things are rotating, but
everybody has robot parts. I have robot parts. I have the diabetes thing. The robots will recognize me as one of their own when the uprising happens. Everybody's got robot parts. Every game has math in it, and so I think that just because this article exists doesn't mean it's ruining anything.
I agree. I still feel, and I agree with Ruben. I still think that people. I still feel like personal preference is still a thing, and that there are people who have that card that they just really want to play, and that regardless of how good it might be, it's not that card. Like there are people. Chris Van Meter loves green red dragons. Kibler loves his zoo creatures. People just have those things that they gravitate towards. I love my black green, and there may be a better deck, but if that's what I know and that's what I love, damn it, I'm going to play it. And I think that's something people underestimate, or again going back to the Vorthos thing, they think enough people don't think like that, and I know plenty of people who think like that, so I've learned not to buy into that.
Now here's something before we close out this topic. I will say, Evan, that I do fear a world in which more articles like this exist. This one is just a blip on the radar. But if everyone starts using all of the data that they can possibly mine, then it starts to become an army of robots, and that's obviously going to be when Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up, and that's never good.
I just think that you sometimes you can squeeze the fun out of Magic when you think that you're actually adding to the fun of Magic. You're like, look at what we solved. Well, maybe what you solved was the mystery that actually kept Magic interesting for you.
Yeah. No, I definitely sense the fear, and I see I understand that this is the first step on a bridge to that, but I think that at this point we don't have to worry about data overwhelming the Magic metagame.
And that's good. And in Wizards, and this happened a couple years ago when they kind of pulled back the number of deck lists they were posting on Magic Online results, and the number of deck lists they were posting for the Pro Tour. You could see they started publishing less deck lists, and that's, at least the way I interpret it was to kind of keep that mystery and that sort of that suspense or that excitement alive. And I appreciate that. So let's move on to our splash damage. And splash damage is where something outside of the community, outside of their regular Magic kind of day-to-day world that you and I and Aaron live in, sort of happens. And so they released the trailer for Season 3 of Spellslingers on Geek and Sundry. Geek and Sundry is a huge YouTube channel, has millions of views on all their videos, and uses lots of famous people, has a really sweet setup, amazing studio, and they brought in some really cool people like Felicia Day, Alan Tudyk, and Chris Cluey to bring Magic to the masses. And we've seen sort of people who are big in Magic community, like LSV, who's been on this show, and Day 9, who was in the Community Cup with Aaron, and be able to kind of, that's right, there you are, and kind of bring Magic to people who may not sort of want to hear about it from the people from Magic community, but maybe who are interested because, oh, well, this celebrity who I know and like and listen to and follow is now involved in this game. What's this game all about? How do you guys feel about it?
I think it's smart, especially there's a term that I heard thrown around called it's like a take on monogamous, but you're doing it with the word game, and I think that nowadays, I don't know many people who are monogamous with their games. I know people who will play Magic on the weekend, will play Torchlight on a Tuesday, Diablo maybe on Wednesday, and maybe have like an alt in World of Warcraft, and I think it's really smart that they're taking people who don't just play Magic, and that, they are known for one kind of game, and maybe they can bring people to our game and vice versa. There are people who play Magic that maybe don't know what games Chris Clue enjoys, or who this particular person is, but it's just really smart cross promotion, really.
Yeah.
Ruben?
Yeah, I love it. Was when I first heard that, for example, Alan Tudyk was going to be on Spellslingers this coming season, I kind of freaked out because
he's a voice actor, isn't he?
Well, these days he's a voice actor. He's like the voice of King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph.
He was in
among other things.
Frozen too, wasn't he?
Yes,
little short guy?
He was the king, the short king in Frozen,
Nice.
and most people know him as Wash from Firefly.
Right.
He's got a ton of Firefly fans out there. Obviously,
I've never seen
I'm
Firefly.
expecting.
Would you just see Firefly, for God's sakes? This is
Just go. I mean, it's not that long. Don't worry.
It's not. It's a good show. It's not bad.
But anyway, the point is that Alan Tudyk's great, and I want his career if I were to ever be an actor, because he's just got like the best possible career, and he's hilarious, and I was very excited. Even if I weren't a Magic player, I would just watch him play a game that I didn't play because I like him. And so the Geek and Sundry series, and first of all, Geek and Sundry is really good at building the crossover, at making sure that players are not monogamous, because it's games, so I just decided to change the pronunciation.
There.
And making sure that, if you like Felicia Day, maybe you'll like Magic. And if you like Chris Cluey, maybe you'll like Magic. And they do that with a lot of different games, too.
Yeah.
Spellslingers in particular is the one for Magic. And, Sean Plott, the host of the show, Day 9, originally was known as a StarCraft pro and streamer, and has since branched out and used his personality. And most people watch his show and are just like, I'm not watching his show because I like the game he's playing. You might like the game he's playing too. You're watching the show because you like Sean.
Yeah.
You're watching the show because of Day 9. You're
And
not
that's
watching
how
it because of Magic.
a lot of Twitch channels just work anyway.
Yeah.
I've watched people who are who just play like a lot of Mega Man, and they love to play Mega Man, and they play Mega Man almost all the time, but they don't always play Mega Man all the time, and they'll play something else, and you'll still kind of hang out with them because you like their personality, you like how sort of what they bring to the game and whatnot. And the other thing about Spellslingers that I enjoy is that there's a really high production value.
Yes.
There's a lot of like behind the scenes, like they do the interview thing. There's a lot of really quick editing. Like it's very nicely produced. The shots look great. The lighting is perfect. They really get across the fun and the craziness of Magic in the way that they produce that show. And it's not easy to make a game like Magic look that exciting and funny and interesting. And it takes not only the big personalities of people like Sean Plott, Day 9 happening, but also some of the big stars and the people to kind of bring people to Magic and watch them kind of intersperse with each other and have fun with the game that we enjoy so much. And I mean, hell, even I'm not a monogamist. I was playing Banner Saga yesterday because it's a really good game.
And you were geeking out about Final Fantasy VII 2.
Oh yeah,
next year.
No,
so,
Final Fantasy VII remake. Bring it.
6 or go home.
My body is ready. 7, that thing just hit me right at the right spot in life.
I am more monogamous than literally anyone else I know.
Are you?
Yes, I play Magic, and that's basically it. Like, I'll watch my friends play. I play Hearthstone also now, but before Hearthstone, I would watch my friends play video games. I was like interested kind of in the stories and just watching them. They were like movies I could yell at. You know what I mean? Watch out for that guy. He's got a knife. And then occasionally, if you do that in a normal movie, the actor's already acted the scene. But if you do it for a video game, they might move, right? So you're helping. So like I play Magic, Hearthstone, and then like Werewolf, and that's like it. That's
you're
what
into
I
that
do.
werewolf stuff, aren't
Werewolf
you?
is fun.
Werewolf's awesome.
You should check that out whenever you get a
I'm
chance.
not cool enough to get invited to Ruben's werewolf games. Just
Sorry, man.
Can't
You
swing
can't
it.
all be A-list celebrities, but I am less. I am less of a mono or more of a monogamist than most people are, and I even watch, for example, like Tabletop with Will Wheaton when they just play board games with other celebrities. I think that's a pretty cool show too, and that this is gonna it's only a positive for Magic. And I'm just super excited that the star power has been building and building and building each season that they've done it. It's only maybe a season and a half away from getting Joseph Gordon-Levitt or some other super A-list celebrity that plays Magic onto Spellslingers.
We just, one day if we can get Brad Pitt to just like shuffle up and just battle.
I don't know. Well,
it would be amazing for Magic. It would be absolutely amazing for Magic.
It would be.
Yeah, it's just like the fact that Vin Diesel plays D&D.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's a big deal. That all of a sudden legitimizes and it makes it cool and it makes it something I can do or because well he does it and he's super cool. Like that's a lot of the celebrity culture. So anyway, it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I really like how they produce it, and we're going to move on here to our final segment, which is always the finisher. And last week, there was a Reddit thread featuring a realtor named Donna who created a custom Magic card as her business cards, and it made it all the way to the front page of Reddit. We're talking about the front page of the internet, ladies and gentlemen. And this is how, again, the non-Magic players of the world sort of see us and see things related to Magic. So what we were thinking is what other professions should use the Magic-themed business cards. So I wanted to kick it off with an absolutely fantastic one that I enjoy. The new business cards for the less than scrupulous New Jersey law offices of Goldschmidt, Macaroni, and Callaghan will feature the lawyers on their very own two-faced cards.
Yeah.
That one.
New Jersey law offices.
Yeah. Flip me over. Just,
You talking Jersey?
If you transform, you might get a better deal. I like that. That's really good. Well, I personally would like to see, there's lots of great antiquing in New England, and if the Massachusetts-based Mrs. Carney's Fine Antiquing went and got themselves a legendary artifact business card, I think that'd be pretty cool. And you're just like, I think that would get a lot more young people into fine antiquing.
Nice.
Now, see, I would just have to next level you all and just not even have business cards. Like, I want to be that jewelry store owner that just gives people trinket mages and just like,
Nice.
And you're like,
just actual trinket mages, no phone number.
Right, and they just know. They just know.
You just know who brings you the trinkets.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Trinkets.
And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, that ends another episode of Magic Mics. I would like to thank you guys for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. I would like to thank my co-host Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, and you guys for watching. We'll go to our last slide here, and we want you guys to follow and like and tweet and favorite and share and do all the things that are social that tell people that we exist. You can catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics. You can see us on Twitter at magicmicescast and on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com and follow the audio-only podcast if you're into that thing, magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.